For this video I'm going to assume that you've already installed WordPress SEO from Yoast. If you haven't, you can do it from your plugins place in the WordPress dashboard, and you need to do it to make sense of this. And we're going to cover the general settings and the titles and meters, and then we'll move on in other videos to other bits. General settings is that. You've got a tour if you want to. That, if it's your first time, could well be worth doing. And restore default settings. Be cautious if you've done any changes. Yoast likes to track data. It's up to you whether you allow them to track it. It's all anonymized. I'm personally happy to let him do it, but that's your choice. And the advanced part, again, leave it ticked that it's basically disabled. Webmaster tools, if you've got different webmaster tools from Google, Bing or Alexa, you can put the IDs or whatever else you need to do in those. I tend not to. I'm wary of allowing too many people having my data, especially large companies like Google. Just personal preference. If you've made any changes, there's a Save Changes button below there that you just press. Very simple. Next up is the Titles and Meters tag. Now this is tab. Now this is, as you can see, there's 5 different things. This changes a little bit. Force rewrite titles. Now what that does, I tend to tick it by default. It will auto detect whether or not you need to use it, but it's kind of better safe than sorry. All it means is that you're going to use the settings that we've got in Yoast rather than the ones that your theme does. If you've got conflicts or things don't change, it's most likely the thing to set. Site-wide settings, no index subpages, tend to tick that. Use the meta keywords tag. I don't recommend doing that near enough. I don't know of any major search engine or even any minor search engine nowadays that use the keywords. If you're, scroll down a little bit. If you're listed in the open directory demos, adding that tag will basically stop the relatively boring demos title and description showing up in the search. Otherwise, so if you find that you've that Google's ignoring all your carefully crafted titles and whatever's, then tick those 2. That means no open directory, and that means no Yahoo directory. Yahoo directory is paid, so chances are using that is low. Clean up the head. You can tick any of those if you want, but I tend not to. Your choice. It will mean that the page is fractionally smaller, so it could be good for speeding stuff up. So that's that one. And again, if you made any changes, click the Save button. It's just off screen. Home and front page, chance of you editing that'll just take you off to the actual editing page anyway, so that's just there kind of for convenience. Post types is the important part. Now you can see a load of gobbledygook there. That's the template for the page post title, so any post you make, that will be the default template unless you override it. So I'll show you that on one of mine. That's the SEO title box in Yoast. So the post itself is further up on the page, and a bit further down, SEO title. Now, as you see, that's got the title of the article and then a dash, and then my name, because that's the site name. If all I want is that, which is usually what I do, and I probably should change this part, because if I got rid of the hundreds of percents there and the separator, what that is the title. That's a page number, so if you had loads of numbers, then that would show that as well. Then a separator, which is the dash, and then the site name. So I personally don't particularly like that most of the time, so I'm going to get rid of that and Save Changes. And it goes back to the main tag, and exactly the same with the pages one. And might as well keep it. I don't tend to have media, but that's that. So what that will do, again, if we go back to that page, if I get rid of that and press refresh, it should pick that up. somewhere. Yes, so that's got rid of that now. Quite useful. Well, personal preference. If you want the site title in anything, leave that there as the default. If you want a load of other things to add, over here is a help button, which I've missed up until recently, and that will tell you all the different variables. Again, let's show you that you can use. So you can have a date, title, site name, separator. So advanced variables is probably that pages one. Can't see it there at all. There. Okay. Replace with the current page number 2 of 4. Okay. So that was. But generally, you've got different ones there. If you wanted to play around, if you do that, I'd strongly suggest that you keep your existing one somewhere safe. What I mean by that is that just copy it into Notepad or something like that. So the ones I got rid of there, the %% sep, you can copy and paste these rather than type these and so on. So you could, and whatever the other one was, site name. So copy and paste that. That was the original. And what I'd tend to do is copy and paste the whole of that into Notepad. Just keep it separate until I was happy. But I'm happy with that, so we're going to go with that. Meta robots, no index follow. I don't know why that's showing there. You wouldn't normally do that. Don't show rel equals author. That's up to you. Rel equals author tends to, it's one of these things that can potentially help with your SEO. So there, that one isn't normally ticked by default, the show date in a snippet preview. Now if I show you that, I'll go back to there, because what happens is that WordPress will put the date of the post in anyway. So ticking that box means that Yoast allows for it in the meta description and tells you when you've got 140 characters because of the date display rather than 156, which should be its default. So that's well worth going in and ticking and hide the meta box, so you wouldn't want to do that because it's well worth using. And pretty much the same for page title, exactly the same ones. Except you actually don't need the snippet in the date preview because it doesn't show up in the results normally. And media, ticket. So save all the changes and then go in and test. Now template, again, if you wanted to get really scary, you could use that help button and the different variables, but that is beyond the scope of this video. It's pretty much just put the description in, I would say, in your normal thing. You could possibly use that as meta description. There'll be something there. Bear with. No, what I'd suggest is, well, leave it blank, because that means that there's no template for it. You just have to complete it each time, because again, the meta description should relate to the page you're on. It should be unique to that and should be really, really good about it, and it's call to action. So leave that blank unless you've got a really pressing reason not to. That typically leave blank, leave as the defaults. It's set up pretty well. So categories page, you've got the title, archives, blah blah blah, tags, again, and the format. So unless you've got a really pressing reason to do that, leave that as normal. And the same with the author, archives, and data archives, unless you've got anything else. The only other one there, let's just move that a little bit, is defaults for search pages. You search for blah or page not found. If you wanted to change the title of that, you could do, but again, I tend not to. So that's the Yoast Wordpress SEO titles and metas, and we'll go on to the other ones in the next videos.